Tamam Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jayodira Nishta Preshu Bhadresu Nityam Bhagavata Sevya Bhagavati Uttama Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiti Nigama Kapadur Garito Jayodira Sukamakaramitta Drapi Samitam Pibata Bhagavatam Rashamariam Mahora Hori Sikubhavaram Krishna Sadama Bhagate Dhammagini Karuna Stadri Samasha Parana Kodinoditam Trama Piadabashuta Vishutam Vibu Yahana Sadamiram Biram Piram Prakyahido Mahridam Sanklesha Nibanam Musanti Nanyatam O Maganati Miranda Shanganangana Saraka Chaksurun Miritam Yanatashmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manavabhishtam Stapitam Yana Bhutare Shayam Rupa Karamayam Tarati Swaparantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Siyata Parikamanam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Sirupam Sagaritam Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Stam Sadevam Sadvaitam Sabadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Ladita Shivishakhan Vitam Stam Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinu Bandhu Jagapate Gopisha Gopika Kantar Kantin Moshdam Jayatam Surito Pango Mama Mandaya Madirgati Matsavasha Padam Bhoja Radhan Madanam Seeman Rasaram Be Vamsina Karsan Veneshanobi Gopanata Sri Saram Divyat Vindarani Kapadrumara Srimad Ratna Gadashima Sanasto Sri Radha Shilagovan Prasada Vihi Sevamanoshmarami Namo Brahmanidavaya Go Brahmanitaya Chajagaditaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha Mangalang Bhagavan Vishnu Mangalam Guru Rajatam Mangalam Panidikaksho Manganayatano Hari Om Narayana Vidmahi Vasudevaya Dhimahi Tano Vishnu Prachodhyate Om Mahadevi Chabidnahi Vishnu Padyanti Dhimahi Tano Lakshmi Prachodhyate Mahalakshmi Namastubhyam Sare Sare Hari Priya Namastubhyam Namastubhyam Tapti Kanchana Gorangir Arivindavnish Rishabhana Sute Devi Hanam Panamini Hari Priya Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Dhanamani and Miste Sarasati Devi Gauravani Pachani Nirvishesa Sunyori Vaskadare Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Well, welcome everybody. Jean, Jay, John. There's others here too. Oh yeah, John, the other John Malik, Jay, Jean, Brent. Thanks for jumping aboard, and thanks for Rob being with us on Zoom. And there's others who have not appeared in the comments of Facebook. This is the day after we celebrated Janmashtami in Spanish Fork, which was on a Sunday. We combined it with the Sunday feast program, went from 5 to 8, not a midnight vigil, but an abbreviated, truncated version of it, quite successful. Nevertheless, we start out with a Rath Yatra around the temple veranda using a wonderful hand-carved wooden chariot, which we'd ordered from Bangalore maybe 20 years ago. Krishna was on the chariot. We went 3 times around the temple veranda with Jai Krishna leading ecstatic kirtan. And then we did the Dahi Handi. As always, we'd hung a pot aloof from ropes above the temple, and we made a human pyramid, and we smashed the Dahi Handi. Instead of putting dahi or yogurt in the pot, we put little golden chocolate coins, so that when the pot breaks and the coins cascade down to the ground, the kids all scramble to get as many coins as they can. Then we went into the temple for a talk. I gave a talk which was very well received. Surprisingly, amazingly, the roar of the crowd subsided. And actually, this has never happened before in my memory. During the 15-minute or so talk, people were in rapt attention. You could have heard a pin drop. It had been exactly the opposite in Salt Lake City the previous Wednesday when we celebrated. It was a roar, but I still managed to deal with that and get above everybody, and still had the attention of serious people. But yesterday was ideal for a speaker. Give a nice 15-minute talk. It It turned out well. I hadn't rehearsed it or wasn't working from notes or anything. It turned out very well, very received. And people were in an attentive mood during it. And then we had an amazing dance performance by Divya Narayan. It's been more than 16 years since she's performed both on the day of Janmashtami in the Salt Lake City temple and on the following Sunday in Spanish Fork. That dates back almost to the opening of the Spanish Fork temple. She couldn't have danced 16 years in the Salt Lake City temple because we opened it in 2019. So it's 5 years in the Salt Lake City temple, and before that in Spanish Fork temple. In fact, Divya's daughter Manya had her first performance at the age of 5 in the Spanish Fork temple 16 years ago. And what a wonderful family. Manoj is the husband, Manya is the daughter, and Divya is the maestress, the teacher, the dancer per excellence, with more than 2,000 public performances to our credit. They did an amazing program on Wednesday night in Salt Lake City, and a completely different program last night in Spanish Fork. It was not a carbon copy of Wednesday night's program. Every presentation was different. One thing that was stunning about last night's dance presentation was the episode of the dice game from the Mahabharata. Manya and Divya and one other dancer played all the roles of Dussasana, Draupadi, Yudhishthir, Sakuni, Duryodhana. It was so well done. Everybody agreed that the scene of the dice game in Hastinapur and the attempt to disrobe Draupadi, it came to life. Even people who were Westerners coming to the temple for the first time could get the drift of the narrative, could get the drift of the story. It was so well done. And the applause was thunderous afterwards. It was almost a standing ovation in the middle of the performance. And I asked Divya later on whether she had done that many times before. And she said, no, it was a relatively new piece, which they'd performed very seldom. Congratulations, kudos to the whole performance troupe, and especially for that rendition of the dice scene in Hastinapur. Amazing. And let me say also about this family, not only they perform years and years and years and years at the temple, they do their classes in the building in Salt Lake City, in the school building, since it opened. They donate $1,000 every year at Janmashtami. So not only do they provide all the cultural program themselves single-handedly with a huge group of 20 or so dancers, but they donate $1,000, putting them amongst the top of the donors. And I had gone to their house last year for a meal and association. And one of the things that Manoj showed me was a desk, which he uses, which goes up and down. In other words, if you sit for a long time, it's very unhealthy. The greatest modern risk to health is not rock climbing, bungee jumping, or skydiving. It's sitting. It's sitting. People stay at home cloistered, glued to their computer screen, sitting in a chair. They're the most likely to die young. They're living the riskiest lifestyle, more risky than bungee jumpers, skydivers, rock climbers, because there's nothing more unhealthy. There's nothing that degrades the quality of life more than sitting for vast periods of time. So I was marveled at Manoj's desk, which will go up to 48 inches so you can stand and do your work. And then it'll go down if you want it, so you can sit for shorter periods of time. So I just mentioned on Wednesday night at the Salt Lake City temple about how I'd been thinking about acquiring a desk like that. And so lo and behold, they showed up. I was in my office and I got a text from Divya. She said, we've arrived. This was 4 o'clock. Their program wasn't until 5:30. I said, give me a couple minutes, put on Tilak Dodi, I'll be right up. And she says, we got the table. I had no idea what she was talking about with the table. I thought maybe it was a spelling mistake, the table. I got up there and lo and behold, they bought me for $330 a desk. just like Manoj, which goes up and down. I haven't installed it yet. There's a lot of things that I have to move off my current desk, but most likely by tomorrow, I will be coming to you with a desk, and I may even be standing. In fact, I prefer to stand when I'm giving my talks in the temple as opposed to sitting in the Vyasasana. So yes, I'm starting to realize that the likelihood of my standing for tomorrow's Transcendental Tuesday class is very, very high. So get ready for that. Bless this family, Manoj, Manya, and Divya Narayan, just as they've blessed our mission here in Utah. And also, of course, Wednesday was the actual day of Janmashtami, the 6th of September. I had gone up to Salt Lake City on Tuesday night to make myself on the spot. I had to pull the food trailer up there. I woke up Wednesday morning and totally forgot about our Wisdom Wednesday session. There were many things that needed to be done in preparation for the festival that evening. I cooked up with Rasheshwar, and we worked together to move tables and chairs around to set up the food cart and set up trash cans. I remember last year there were no trash cans, or not adequate trash cans, and I had just gone to Michigan to the Festival of Colors a couple of weeks ago, and they had a crowd of 1,500 people and one trash can for 1,500 people. So the necessity of ample trash cans was fresh in my mind. It worked in the morning. And it wasn't until I saw Rob in the afternoon that I realized, oh my God, I completely forgot Wisdom Wednesday on Janmashtami. Some of you might have been looking forward to a jump, starting off the day with their minds predicated by thoughts and realizations on Janmashtami, and I dropped the ball on that altogether. The good news is there were plenty of trash cans. There was no lack of trash cans. The food cart was up and running. It did $3,000. We sold plates of five-course hot meal for $12, and we had mango lemonade for an extra $2. Very, very successful, well-organized event. There were 1,500 people present. What else can I say? We had done virtually no advertising. The stunning thing about the Salt Lake City Janmashtami celebration last Wednesday was that the crowd, the size of the crowd was humongous. The size of the crowd was usually the crowd that you only get on a Saturday night. Normally, you'd only get that big of a crowd. Maybe in our history, not even that big of a crowd on Saturday night. And the reason, of course, is that people don't have to work. They can stay up till midnight or 10 o'clock or however late they want and sleep in the following day. Normally, that size of a crowd, we only get on a Saturday night. To have had 1,500 people come to the Janmashtami celebrations in Salt Lake City on a Wednesday night was nothing short of miraculous. Some of our own members, Kapil, for instance, Kapil Sharma, was everywhere. He took pictures. There's a photo gallery on Facebook of over 60 expert artistic photos that Kapil took. He made all the announcements throughout the evening, along with Sundari Priya. He organized the serving, the packing of the meals into takeaway plates and the serving. He organized the volunteers to do that. He organized the volunteers in the food cart. He stayed up with me. We took leave of each other at 2:30 in the morning. I just happened to mention that at Goldman Sachs, as a senior vice president, he had a 6:30 a.m. meeting. So bless your hearts, all of those who had to work. I didn't have to work. I slept till like 8 o'clock in the morning, but others had to be up at 6 after getting to bed at 3 or 3:30 or 4. So my head at your feet, all you great surrendered souls there. That pretty much takes care of it for the Janmashtami. Now, let me show you here. I'm not sure you can see it. I'm very excited now. I'm wearing my, see it? Holy Festival Colors. Oops, it just disappeared there. Holy Festival Colors t-shirt. This is the t-shirt I got a new house in upstate New York when I went there to MC and perform at that event. I'm wearing it today, and I've also got a Festival Colors background because I'm very excited. This Thursday, I'll be flying to Columbus, Ohio. Devotees there have organized a festival in a park right downtown Columbus. As far as I know, there are no other festivals in this 2023 year. We've had Ogden, Salt Lake City, Spanish Fork, organized by ourselves. I've been to Miami. This year I went to Calgary, Canada for another festival. I went to New York State. I went to Detroit, and I will be going to Columbus, Ohio this year. Hopefully I can attend even more festivals in 2024. At least I'm working on it. So very, very excited. Will not negatively affect our Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday sessions this week because I'll be leaving not until Thursday, but Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday of next week, I do not know. I kind of have a history of dropping the festivals on the weekend after I've been out of town. Anyway, in the time that remains to us this morning, our subject matter is the art of chanting. But before we jump into that, let's review from last Wednesday how it was that the Lord is compared to a kite in the sky. The kite appears to be flying independently, but when you take a closer look, you see there's a kite flyer and there's a string with which the kite flyer uses to manipulate the kite and make it do aerial acrobatics up there in the sky. The kite is compared to Lord Krishna. The kite flyer are the devotees. Aham bhakta paradini heshatanti dishara babhashana bhaktir bhaktirjana. Lord Krishna declares himself dependent upon his devotees. He says, I am in the hearts of my devotees, and the devotees are in my heart. Krishna and devotees are like that. There's no other category of men, not bhakti, mukti, yogis, karmis, tyagis, jnanis, who are tight with Krishna in the same way that devotees are tight. On Makar Sankranti, which is the time when the sun changes from the southern hemisphere to the north hemisphere, it's always on January 14th. There's a big kite festival in India. Everybody goes out to the parks and flies kites, and some are very expert. There's a practice of cutting the string of other kite flyers in the same park you have. I'm not sure how that's achieved, but there's obviously a rough part on one's own kite string, so one can manipulate to come across another kite string, and it cuts another kite string, and then that other person's kite is truly independent, truly no longer controlled. It's a practice and it's an art. Again, the kite is Krishna, the kite flyer are the devotees, and the string is the chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. The practice of flying the kite expertly requires discipline. It requires consistency. The practice of increasing and enhancing one's devotion to the Lord, whereby the Lord becomes dependent upon one's devotee, also is not achieved without consistency and without discipline. These are prerequisites for success in any area of life, what to speak of devotional service. So we're going to talk more about what it takes to chant successfully in order to advance in devotional service, and the result of which is that the Lord serves his devotees. What is that? Parashara Sevana Sukhamukha Diktam. What is that verse from the first canto? Parashara Sevana Sakya Bhakyam Shukam. Anyway, I can't remember the exact Sanskrit, but it said that Krishna was the chariot driver of the Pandavas. He was their cousin brother. He was their counselor. He was their friend. He was their messenger. He served them. He washed the feet of all the incoming guests when Yudhishthira had his Rajasi or Sakya. Pradashada Sevana Sokya Dokta Virashikanam Big Shningashu Pandashu Jagat Pranatim Bhaktim Karoti Nipatish Charanarabindayam. Krishna served the lotus feet of the Pandavas in multiple ways because they were his devotees. Perfect example of the Lord subordinating himself in the face of the discipline and the art of those who practice devotional service. But we'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment, but I wanted to share with you, with music today, no less, the newest composition from Caru, from the studio of Caru. We have evolved, because this is our, I don't know, 28th segment on Gajendra Moksha. So it eventually occurred to me that I should compose a song about Gajendra, which I am now sharing with you today, along with what I hope will be the appropriate music. Gajendra, king of elephants, was sporting on a heavenly planet, courting his wives in a lotus-filled lake, cavorting in the water. He'd snorted some honey through his trunk and was quite drunk. A crocodile clamped his jaws in the elephant's leg, and though he stamped, trampled, and scrambled, he couldn't get the croc to withdraw. Through the tug of war, Gajendra realized he was losing the fight to stay upright. Dragged further from the shore, nagged by the reptile, his strength was flagging day by day. Lacking the backing of the other pachyderms, Gajendra realized he was alone in this dangerous zone. The water had turned to foam, his friends had flown, and there was no one to phone. Devoid of his fabled strength, at the end of his rope's length, Gajendra's hopes turned to the Lord, who awards protection to his devotees. He gave up tugging at his leg, which the croc wanted to devour, plucking a lotus flower from his trunk, with his trunk, from the muck of the lake, and offering it. Gajendra sought the Lord's power. Krishna, you are the root of the cosmos, the fruit of the Vedas, the absolute truth who plays on his flute, the ever-existing youth. Your lotus feet are adored by Shiva and Brahma, neither of whom would leave you, not even for a beat. Your features are unlimited. You're the ingredients of all creatures. Whether they have hands, claws, jaws, or paws, they are your parts and parcels. Those who are smart serve you with all their hearts. You guard your devotees who never depart from the hearth of your sheltering breasts. Lord, I confess that I've messed up, repressed my service, failed to test, and yet I'm thirsty for your mercy, which is bigger than my mistakes. I've heard that all it takes to awaken your protection is a helpless cry of affection. Today, in spite of shame, I'm calling your name in the middle of the fight to ask you to reclaim me from the might of the crocodile's bite. Lord, after my release from these teeth of the croc, can you kindly block my ignorance and lock me into your devotional service? Bring my purpose back to the surface. I'm knocking at your door. Lord, kindly keep me close forevermore. Hearing the eloquent prayers of the elephant, the Lord steered Garuda to the spot. He sheared off the crocodile's head with his chakra. When the reptile lay dead and Gajendra was shed of his dread, he picked up the thread of his prayers and said, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Rama Ramo, Hare Hare. You're welcome to join me out there for one more recitation. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ramo, Rama Ramo, Hare Hare. That is our latest production, the result of the muse. Hope you like it. I'm trying to practice it. I might be able to roll it out in Ohio, but that might be too ambitious. We'll see. And anyway, if one's going to be successful in devotional service, one has to chant with discipline, with consistency, with respect for the holiness and the inviolability of the holy name. One has to do it daily, not weekly, not monthly, not intermittently, not when one feels like it, but even when one doesn't feel like it. That persistence, that flexing of inner character, inner self, inner discipline is what's going to make you successful in spiritual life. It's not all that dissimilar from the military. No one can survive in the military without discipline. It's not like you get up for you join the other recruits in boot camp if you're feeling up to it that day. No, I don't think the drill sergeant is going to go along with that attitude. Those of us who are practicing devotees, who are aspiring devotees, following the footsteps of our previous acharyas, cannot make progress in spiritual life without discipline. We all realize that. And we all consider ourselves as if we were in the military, members of Lord Chaitanya's army. Krishna Vanati Sakrishnam Sango Pangaram Yaga Sankadaram Yajanti Piyashamedasha. Krishna will appear in the Kali Yuga age as the general of the Sankirtan army. He will be not in the blackish color of Krishna, rather he will assume the color of Krishna in the mood of Radharani. Radharani is golden. So when Krishna is meditating on the love that Radharani has for him, his complexion features change from those of Krishna to those of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is called Gora Hari, the golden avatar, or Gauranga. We consider ourselves members of Lord Chaitanya's army. It is stated or predicted in the Srimad Bhagavatam that those who have sufficient brain intelligence will exercise the consistency, the respect, the devotion, and the discipline necessary to be considered a soldier in Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's army. Now, in that regard, there are 5 elements which are necessary to have successful Nam Japa. The first is Sambandhu. Sambandhu means to think that I have no other connection except for Krishna. It is an offense to consider the names of Krishna to be equal to or independent of the names of the other demigods like Lord Shiva or Lord Brahma. When we're in the situation of transitioning from one body to another, just like Gajendra, he was at risk of his life. It is said the water had turned to foam. His friends had flown. There was no one to phone. He realized he was alone in that dangerous zone. No one can fly your plane other than you. When your plane has engine trouble, there's no other pilot that can take over and assist you in landing safely. You have to deal with your own plane. Similarly, when we enter at the time of death, our friends, our relatives will be of no avail to us. It doesn't matter how much you've sacrificed. It doesn't matter how hard you've worked to give them a comfortable life. It doesn't matter how big of an inheritance you've left them in order to ensure that they don't have the same struggles that you do. There will not be a single thing that any of those beneficiaries can do for you at the time of death. Many men throughout history have compromised their integrity, have committed crimes, gone into ethical gray zones under the excuse that I'm doing it for others, I'm doing it for my family. And yet it says, yam yam artu padate, though they have schemed and committed crimes and conspired in order to get arta, to get benefits in the hands of their family members, yam yam artu padate, dukena shuka hetave. And in the course of benefiting their kith and kin and giving their kith and kin perhaps more than what was meant as their quota, meaning that they have deprived others of what God has intended for their quota. So in order to get shuk for his family members, he's created duk, misery, by cheating other people. Yam yam martu padade dukenisha puma yakshotati shaman pumamjo kadayatye. At the end of his life, he cannot claim that the Lord is unfair. Lord, I work so hard for my family members. Now you're taking me away from the family circle. You're lifting me out of that comfortable circle of the fawning children and grandchildren. You're catapulting me to God knows where, into some dark cave or over some cliff in the dark. I do not know to where I'm going, what my next birth will be. At this time, the soul is totally alone. There's only one recourse, and that is Krishna. However, if you've neglected Krishna throughout the entirety of your life in favor of family, friends, and countries, you'll not think of Krishna at this critical moment. But those who are devotees focus on ante kali chamaveva shmaran mukba kalevara. They know that we'll be kicked out of this body either tomorrow or the day after. And along with doing their temporal duties diligently, but not feverishly, not excessively, plain living and high thinking, along with living a plain life and high thinking. Devotees not only take care of what's necessary in this life, but they have a view towards the future as well and take care of next life as well. That's the mood in which the chanting transpires. Lord, the only one I have is you. When I go exit the door of this lifetime, and I'm in between the exit door of this life and the entrance door of the next life, having left this body and before having received my next body, Lord, the only shelter, I have you. Beyond that, when I'm in the womb of my mother, I've left my previous mother. I have not yet seen the light of day. I've not yet seen my current mother. At that time, Lord, it is only you. And most souls, it is explained in the 5th canto of the Bhagavatam, they do think of Krishna for the first months after they become conscious within the womb of the mother. The situation is that uncomfortable. There's so many inconveniences being packed up with the womb. The misery is so deep that most souls do remember Krishna for a period of time within the womb. However, devotees don't need those extreme circumstances to remember Krishna. When you remember Krishna in the womb of a cat or a dog or a bear or a llama or a peacock, it's too late. It's too late. Devotees have remembered Krishna while they were in their previous bodies, most often in their youth when they had the full power of concentration and mental ability. They invested their time in the youthful days of their previous life in order to become Krishna conscious, and that only stands them in good stead during the critical period of transitioning from one life to another. When one chants Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, they chant without desiring any material, temporary, perishable benefits. They are, in that sense, selfless in their approach. They don't use the chanting in order to increase their material position or add to their material opulence. For such devotees who chant selflessly and offensively, it is said that Krishna is Bhakta Gan. He walks in the wake of the dust of those lotus feet devotees and collects that dust from their feet. It is said that one chants only for the pleasure of Krishna. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sent Nityananda, Haridas Thakur, and others house to house, door to door throughout Bengal and later in Vrindavan with one request. Normally, the bhiksha, the mendicant, will appear at the householder's door in the early morning with a little bowl, or they'll have their hands and they'll ask the householders to give them a cup of milk, a bowl of oatmeal, a bowl of grains, or a few alms with which they can then purchase something for breakfast at the bazaar. And Lord Chaitanya's followers, the bhiksha, the alms they requested from the householders, you just please chant Hare Krishna. Don't chant Hare Krishna to protect your wife or daughter. Don't even chant Hare Krishna to purify your heart. Chant Hare Krishna because that's what pleases the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Chant Hare Krishna to put a smile on the face of Krishna. And we always preface Krishna's name with Hare. Hare is Radha. Radha is the most beloved of Krishna. Radha is the chief of all the devotees. But we don't directly approach Krishna, but we glorify Krishna's foremost devotee, Radha. Krishna is more pleased when we chant Hare than when we chant Krishna. So we start the chanting, not with Krishna's name directly, but we start with Hare, which refers to Radha. And Krishna already has a smile on his face by the time we get to Krishna. Now, Radha is more pleased when we chant Krishna's name than when we chant her name. Naturally, the servant doesn't want to hear the servant's name glorified. The servant wants to glorify the name of the master. So in the same way that Krishna considers Radha his master, his mistress, and Krishna smiles when he hears Hare, so when Radha or Hare hears Krishna, she smiles. So the perfect chant The perfect enunciation is Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, and Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. That's all you need to put a big smile, not only on Krishna's face, but Radha's face as well. If you do it selflessly, without any other motive or agenda. That's the first element. And the second element of successful chanting is nirupeksha. I don't want to chant in order to get something higher than chanting. It is the fixed realization that beyond chanting, there is nothing. It is a fact that when you chant, that's the pathway to face-to-face darshan of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Those who are successful in offenseless chanting see Krishna face-to-face. Premanjana churita bhakti varochanena. Sanda Sadaiva Shugaridio Karan Yam Shayama Shantana Machinta Gunusharapam Govinda Maripurisham Tamahangmanu. You want to see the threefold bending form of Krishna playing on his flute? Then chant. Chant his holy name, and in due course of time, that Krishna who plays in Keshigat on his flute underneath the moonlight near the Yamuna River, he will appear before you face to face. So those who chant, they will see the Lord, but they don't chant in order to see the Lord. Why? How do we know that? Because those who see the Lord go on chanting. If the purpose of the chanting was to see the Lord, once you see the Lord, then you would stop chanting, having achieved your purpose. So the chanting is higher than seeing the Lord. Even if you're not seeing the Lord, but you're chanting, that's even higher than the darshan of Radha and Krishna. The gopis, hey braje, lalike, hey nanda suno kutaha. There are no higher devotees, no more realized devotees than the gopis. Naparayam niravadisha sasad vibadaya yomabajan durjayashim sambrija tapapadyaganam. Krishna says the gopis' love for me is so exalted, so above and beyond, that I could not even pay them with all of my assets in a day of Lord Brahma. There's no higher love than that of the gopis. And you know what was their business? They're going from bush to shrub to creeper, here and there throughout Vrindavan. Hey, Radhe, Brajadevi, Ke Chalade, Hey, Nanda. Where is Krishna? Where is Radha? Krishna intentionally put them in a mood of separation so that the chanting will go on and on and on, even more intensely. And so those who are with Krishna are not as blessed as those who are feeling separation from Krishna and chanting his holy names even more heartfeltly. So those are the first two. One doesn't chant Krishna in order to get something else. And secondly, one doesn't chant with the idea that one will graduate to something else. One doesn't chant with the idea of seeing Krishna, because chanting itself is the highest occupational duty of a living being. Third element for successful Nam Japa is not to advertise your chanting. One should not walk here and there in the street telling people about one's chanting, about one's inner cultivation. In fact, if someone should ask about your chanting, one never brags. One says, oh, I'm not able to chant much. No realized devotees, no advanced chanter ever brags about how much he's chanting or about the qualities of his chanting, nor about the realizations that are coming to the chanting. Every advanced chanter, the more advanced you become, the more confidential one tends to keep the quantity and quality of my chanting. Of course, sometimes you may share something with another sincere devotee who's inquiring, but you don't use this principle to promote yourself in the devotional community. Someone may ask you with a sincere desire to learn and to be inspired to take their own chanting to the next level. So please reveal to me something about your bhajan, so that will challenge me, that will inspire me. But otherwise, unsolicited, unasked, unwarranted, one never talks about one's bhajan. And it's considered impolite or bad etiquette to ask another in the mood of comparison or in the mood of judgment. Are you chanting your 16 rounds? I remember Mahendra passed away just last week. He was in Los Angeles during the 10 years I was there. He was Ramachar's assistant with the BBT. He was on the temple board. We would meet every Thursday night and so. And wonderful fellow, very humble, sweet guy. I remember I made an offense. He did not register as an offense. He did not criticize me, to his credit. He did not even a trace of disappointment crossed his brow, to his credit. But one time I asked him, are you chanting 16 rounds? He said, most days. So probably he wasn't. He admitted, he wasn't chanting every day. But frankly, that was none of my business. And I had no right asking that. And whenever I think back on that, I feel ashamed. I feel regret. To his credit, he didn't criticize me. There wasn't a trace of disappointment that crossed his brow. He answered as truthfully as he could that I chant most. And I'd ask him in front of the other board members, which made an offense doubly worse. So one doesn't inquire about others' bhajans. Only the exception is if you sincerely feel that this person is more advanced than you and you're having a log jam, you feel like you're stuck and you need to be dislodged so you can continue to resume your march forward. You can approach an advanced devotee and ask them for some little ray of light, some insight that might help you to get over the bump that's stopping you or slowing you down again. Other than that, these are all very high, very confidential subject matters. The story is told of one Mona Baba. He was from the Nimbarka Sampradaya, the Pushti Marg. He was a sadhu, lived at Govardhan Hill, and he did Govardhan Parikram 3 times a day. Govardhan Parikram is about 25 kilometers, about 15 miles. He would take 4 hours to walk 15 miles. That means he's going 4 miles an hour, which is a very brisk walk. He would do that 3 times. That means there were 12 hours of walking at a 4 mile per hour pace every day while constantly chanting. 12 hours walking, chanting 128 rounds. So you would have expected, were he to have done that during daylight, he could not have escaped people's notice. The fast pace of his walking, the chanting, someone sitting on Govardhan Parikram, every 4 hours he sees him pass again. People would put 2 and 2 together. They would start to see this person as a great saint. They would start to offer him deferential treatment. They would give him fruits. They would want to get piety on themselves by touching his feet or bringing him special gifts and things like that. But he wanted to keep his sadhana was between him and Krishna. It was nobody else's business. Neither did he want to reap any benefit from it, which would come from people gradually becoming aware of his stature. Imagine 128 rounds every day, consistently, going 3 times around Govardhan Puja, which is about 45 miles a day at a pace of 4 miles per hour. Now, we know this is an exceptional human being, an exceptional devotee. The thing is, he kept it confidential. How do you think he kept it confidential? He did it at night. He did it at night. He would start at 6 p.m. He would start at 10 p.m. He would start at 10 p.m. and do it at night when no one could see it. Not a single person was aware of the stature and the extent of his bhajan. And then, having spent the whole night walking 45 miles and chanting 128 rounds, he would go to bed in the morning and would sleep throughout the day. And if anybody would presume to call him a great devotee, or to inquire about his bhajan, he would say, I have no bhajan. I have no bhajan. I sleep till the middle of the morning. I'm a lazy fool. This is a good example of the verse in Bhagavad Sani Sha Sarvun Yasham Jagad Yasham Jagadibu Sani Sha Pashatomani. What is night for the materialists is day for the spiritualists. What is day for the spiritualists is night for the materialists. So when everybody else was doing their Govardhan Parakram maybe one time, and in order to get material benefits and completely motivated, he was sleeping. But when everyone else was sleeping, dreaming of sex life and money and material acquisition, he was doing his bhajan. So literally what was night for him was day for others, and what was night for others was day for him. And when anyone would ask about it, he would say, I'm doing nothing. I'm just a lazy, sleepy head. I'm sitting in one place. You are doing much more than me. So it's 16 past the hour of 8 o'clock. We've covered 3 of the 5 elements for successful bhajan. Hopefully our stopping here will whet your appetite to then join us on the morrow for the last 2 ingredients that comprise successful japa. Hopefully the suspense will bring you back tomorrow. That's it for today. Thanks, John Malik, for being the first one to jump on, quickly followed by Brent, and then Jean, and then Jay. Thanks, Jay. John is always asking for money from Kenya. Shali, she says, last night's Janmashtami was so much fun. We enjoyed it. Bye, Bobby. Thanks for joining us. Carmen, Hare Krishna, Carmen. Sundari Priya, thank you. Bye, Bobby quoted a line from the Gajendra song, Know When to Phone. The water had turned to foam. His friends had flown, and there was no one home. Yogi, Haribo, and Pragna from Dallas. Govinda Dev says, chant the holy names. Carmen, she has a rhyme here. When you're in Maya helplessly, chant selflessly, purposely, for Hari's glee, and sacredly without envy. Wow. Helplessly, selflessly, purposely, Hari, glee, sacredly. And Rob, do you realize there's 7 rhymes? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. In 15 words, there's 7 rhymes. That's really smoking. That's on 8 cylinders. Okay, and she is a devotee of yourself, Rob. So can you give us what you have today, please?
I mean, I don't know if I should after that seven rhyme quip. That's quite impressive. That is very well done.
There are
He's
other
definitely
criteria.
got a better mind for it than I do, I think.
When you're in Maya, helplessly chant selflessly, purposely, for Hari's glee, and sacredly without envy. Whew.
She should be the master.
Mouthful, mouthful.
But I'll still give you what I got.
We all defer to you, Rob, as the best and the most prolific as well. I'm gonna while you're doing it, I'm gonna as we wind up here, because if you just see the top of my shirt, you might think Caru has reverted to hippiedom with his tie-dye. So I'm just gonna focus on my holy shirt while you scintillate us with your poetry. Go right ahead.
Hare Krishna. Chanting is an art that takes your whole heart.
Good, nice.
To see Krishna as a friend takes discipline.
Nice, excellent.
When you scheme and conspire and then you expire, you will be born again according to your desire.
That was a nice one. Or 4 or 5 rhymes in there.
Still not 7 though. I got something to shoot for. Krishna, when we chant for thee and with detachment chop the tree, then finally we can be free.
That who are you to? Yeah, that was a lot of rhyming there as well.
Please the servant to please the master, and your advancement will be faster.
Nice, nice.
Don't chant for gain, just for the sake of the holy name.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Chanting is not for pride, better that you hide. When you chant, be humble, and you will not stumble.
All of them right on. All of them exactly according to the theme that we talked about. So thank you very much, Rob. You're at your best game as usual. So this is kicked off the week, Motivational Monday. We had a good discussion, I believe, about what it takes to chant successful Japa Nam, and we'll continue that. We'll go deeper into this, and we'll have some more stories about devotees who kept their bhajan confidential, which will inspire us to do the same, to not to go outward, not to chant for some external show, but to perform it as the inner dynamic of the soul itself. We will see you tomorrow for that discussion. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Oh, here's one. I almost missed this. Govinda Dev weighs in here at the end. He quoted Prabhupada. Prabhupada was asked by a newspaper reporter, what is the goal of chanting Hare Krishna? Prabhupada said the goal of chanting Hare Krishna is to chant Hare Krishna. Right on, exactly to the point. Thank you for that contribution. Govinda, thank you for those of you who listen. Thank you to Rob. Thank you for Carmen for the poetry. We have a lot of fun, don't we? These Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday mornings. So I'm looking forward to Transcendental Tuesday. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.